think she's a phenomenal athlete.
Okay.
I feel like every sport has to have its great white hope.
Ooh, talk about it.
She is the great white hope.
If you were a fan of the NBA in the 1990s, you know who Gary Payton was. So what could have happened to him to take a boisterous guy and humble him like this? On the rare opportunities that I have to watch sports these days, I group athletes into one of three categories. Well, four really. One is guys I want to see win. There are just some guys I root for. I want to see them win championships. Guys that I think are good for the sport. And on the opposite side of that, there are guys I like to see lose. And that would be like Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. And then there are guys I just love to watch. They're so much fun to watch. You could say Steph Curry's in that category, Allen Iverson's in that category, and Jason Williams was definitely in that category. And here he says his story about the game where he made himself famous against Gary Payton.
He was talking so much to me that game, like I was terrified. Like, white boy this, he ain't da. I'm like, bro, like, I don't know this guy. And he's like, is he serious? Like, does he really hate me because I'm white type shit? You know what I mean? Like I'm just out here hooping. I don't want to do nothing silly. I don't want to, you're my idol type shit. One play before that, I hit one from like Steph Curry range. And then the next time come down, and he had to step up. And he stuck his leg out.
He tried to trip you.
For sure, he tried to trip me.
Yeah.
If you're a young white kid winning a state championship with Randy Moss on your basketball team, there are two things that you can certainly say about this young man. He's tough, and we know he can ball, something that many NBA players all too readily admitted.
I love it.
Every sport has to have their great white hope.
White chocolate. When you say that name, you know who you're talking about? The legend. You know, a lot of people don't use the word legend and don't really mean it, but when we say your name, you're a legend for real.
Listen here, there's not too many guys that I played against. When we switch a pick and roll and I want to guard, I get embarrassed. Like, this dude right here would do something so creative to embarrass you out there. Like, I didn't like to guard him.
Okay, play ball.
Via the Urban Dictionary, play ball, to be a sport, to go along and do what you're supposed to do. As we grow up and we learn that playing ball is the easiest way to get along with our lives as an adult, we start noticing things around us that are part of this playing ball. Let me give you an example. On the very simple end, if you take a language test, they're teaching you words you need to know and the order you need to know them in, or the order they would like for you to use them in. So number 31, ni zenma chu naga fandian. And the answer is I zuo chuzuchu. How are you going to go to that restaurant? By taking a taxi. Very simple on that basic end. As you start taking higher level tests, and this one is either the highest or second to highest level Japanese test, you'll notice grammar that you're just not hearing on a daily basis. This question asks, kono mama de wa keikaku ga inki ni nari kanenai, or as is, the plan might have to be extended. And then of course they want you to recognize which is the correct kanji for inki, extend, which is the first kanji. So they want to make sure that you know how to write it. But they also asking you about nari kanenai, which people just don't really say. They say kamoshirenai or kamo, which is the way that most people say might. But for some reason, they want you to learn this maybe older way, to keep it into the lexicon, to reinforce that it's still important. And in a way, they're asking you to play ball. This is a question from the Solutions Architect Associates exam from AWS, Amazon Web Services. A company currently stores data on-premises applications on local drives. The Chief Technology Officer wants to reduce hardware costs by storing the data in Amazon, see that, Amazon S3, but does not want to make modifications to the application. To minimize latency, frequency accessed data should be available locally. Now, we can study this question and possibly the answer might be A, the one that does not have Amazon in it. But we are pretty sure that one of the answers is going to point to an Amazon service because, quite frankly, they want you to be able to understand how to use their services. So when you go into the workforce, you're going to be adept at integrating their services into the client that you work for so that they can make money. And it's something that's understood, and it doesn't have to be said out loud. It's just part of playing ball.
Strike.
By the way, my answer to this question, I believe, is C, deploy an AWS data sync agent on a local server and configure an S3 bucket as a destination, which is essentially saying help the company to get their foot into the door of becoming a hybrid site, if you will, and begin using more of the AWS services in their day-to-day business. But it's not just AWS or companies that play ball. It's not just people that are assimilating into other countries that are playing ball. There are very few people that play ball better than the Japanese.
お子様がもし外国人の結
If
婚
your child
彼
wanted
女
to
結婚
marry
され
a
るとしたら
foreigner,
別にそれは認められる
would you accept that?
自分の好きな人
As
と
long as they
結婚
marry
すれば
someone
それ
they
は
love,
外国人だからとか日
whether
本人だ
they're
から
a foreigner or
そういう区別
Japanese.
はないです
I
日本
wouldn't
人が少なく
discriminate.
なってんだから
Our
日本人と結
population
婚して
is
さ日本の
declining,
その
so if they
人口を
marry
増
a
やすってい
Japanese
うか
person
そういう
and
あれ
help
も
the
いいんじゃないです
population,
か
wouldn't that be
だけ
good?
ど別れるとか
I just
切れる
don't
と
want
か
them
ねそういう
to
こ
get
とをやって
divorced.
ほ
I
しくない
want
最
them to
後ま
stay
で付き合
together
ってほ
till
しい
the
帰っ
end.
て嬉しいですね。やっぱ
I
りさ、
would like it.
ほら血が混じる
That's
と
because
優秀な子が
Nick's children might have better genes,
血が混じると
or
ね
so she's heard.
そういうことを聞きますからね。
まだ私も偏見があるのでね
I
そう
still
いう
have
人たち
some
と
prejudice
うちの
if my grandson
孫
wanted
が
to
です
marry a
ね
Westerner.
結婚したいっていうんであれば決して反対はしない
I
と思
don't
います
think I would
ただ
be
やはり
opposed
ちょっと
only
後進国だとかあるい
if
は
you wanted to marry
生
someone
活のレベ
from
ルあ
a
るいは価値観の
developing
違う
country
方
with a
で
lower
結婚
quality
したい
of
となる
life
とちょ
or
っと待った
different
方が良くない
values.
のっていうふうに
He
アドバ
probably
イス
should
しちゃ
think
う
it
かもしれ
over,
ま
and
せん
that's
お
how
子
he
様
would
がも
advise
し外国人の結婚
And I would also push the opinion out there too that I've really seen that we often favor whiteness, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's safe to say that even growing up on my childhood, you know, I remember my grandma saying, just don't date someone who's too dark skinned. And it's like, oh, why would you say that, you know? And that's always stuck with me is like, whiteness has always been favored because I feel like if you are in an interracial relationship with a white person, it's almost accepted a little bit more. Like, people almost say, oh, she did okay though. I just don't understand that. Like, why do we have to put other races on a pedestal, right? It just doesn't make sense to me, honestly.
You don't have to be in Japan too long to see ladies playing outdoor sports like tennis, and they're covered from head to toe in sun blockers because, quite simply, they want to preserve the lightness of their skin. And of course, if you look at it from an emotional point of view, as the world quote unquote should be, you might take offense to it. But if you just see the world for what it is, or essentially quote unquote play ball, there's no reason to take offense to it. It's just the way the world works as is.
Come out of this press conference, I go and I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to go show my love for sure. That's respect, whatever. And I'm like, oh man, that's Gary Payne. Like I'm getting like, whoa. He got on the freshest Air Force Ones too, like fresh. And I go and I step on his Air Force One.
No!
I'm thinking for sure, if he don't swing on me, his homie's swinging. I was fortunate enough to have great teammates, but he ranks right up there, bro. Like, really fabulous dude, bro.
Remember, I spoke earlier about guys that I just like to see do well and win. And the 3 or 4 weeks of Linsanity was a prime example of that. And all things considered, do most Asian guys ball better than most black guys? No, they don't. As a matter of fact, do most white guys? On average, not in basketball. But some guys are good. They're really good. And to say on a flat level that he's the Asian hope, well, he might be. But the real issue is, as men particularly, we understand there are times you have to play ball. And so why even bother saying it?
I think she's a phenomenal athlete.
Okay.
I feel like every sport has to have its great white hope.
Ooh, talk
She
about
is
it.
the great white hope. They need to respect it and allow her to go ahead and continue to open doors. Not only is she doing it for herself, but she's also doing it for the organization.
I love it.
Every sport has to have their great white hope. Because then as the great white hope comes, then here comes the others. That
Right.
makes sense? Yeah.
That's why we have Josh on the show.
I am the great white hope of podcasting. You gotta have it.
That's true.
That makes sense? That makes sense?
That does make sense. It's unfortunate that life is like that, though.
You heard the gentleman at the very end say that I feel it shouldn't be that way, or something to that effect, that it's unfortunate that that's the way things are. But there are times where, especially as men, we have to accept the world as it is. And to complain about the world being a certain way and it not being fair, well, The first step of manhood is radical acceptance. It is what it is. And to hear this particular clip of I guess you could say, disparaging of people wanting a great white hope, if you will, I would imagine after 20 some odd years of a league being there and not giving the 100 plus million white women in America what they want, now having something in front of them that they do want, you have two choices: play ball or keep getting the result that you've had all along. And that's something that men come to understand as a reality. We have to play ball with the world as it is. If we're taking a test that's teaching us a language, they're teaching us certain words for an agenda. If we're taking an internet or a computer literacy test, they may not only be teaching us how to use the internet and the tools of the internet, but to use their particular tools of the internet because it's something in it for them. That's just the way the world works. And to look at the world and say it's not fair or I feel it shouldn't be that way is just a sign that you have more growing up to do, even if you're a passport bro going overseas. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.